Hey, I'm Court. I'm a pyrography artist, and today let's learn about wood burning tools and learning how to choose the right tool for you. There are many options of tools and different brands on the market, and if you don't have a wood burning tool yet, or if you have a tool but you're considering to change or upgrade your tool, then this video is for you. I will teach you the difference between a solid nib burner versus a wired nib burner, the pros and cons of both types of tools, and the different applications for each tool. It's important to understand that a wood burning tool is not 100% responsible for making your art better or making wood burning easier. There's a few other factors that also contribute to improving your work and making your overall wood burning experience easier, such as choosing high quality wood, burning on super smooth grain, and your ability to perform your wood burning techniques and skills. But pairing a decent quality tool with these additional factors will be the most helpful for you to learn wood burning, especially if it's your first time, or to improve your skills if you already have some experience under your belt. Now let's focus on pyrography tools so we can learn which one is best for you for the reasons that you want to learn about them.
All right, there's two categories for wood burning tools: solid nib tools and wired nib tools. Now you might be like, Court, what is a nib? What do you mean there are solid nibs and wire nibs? Well, let me tell you. Nibs in wood burning are referring to the small piece of metal at the end of the tool that heats up to burn the wood. Nibs come in many different shapes and sizes with different applications, and some of them are either made of solid metal or made of thinner pieces of wire. So we will start with learning about solid nib tools. The example I'm using today is called the Creative Versa tool by Walnut Hollow. I will walk you through its features and then I'll jump into the pros and cons of a solid nib tool. So this tool right here is what I started with my first time burning back in 2016, and I still use this tool today in all my artwork. It's beginner friendly and it's easy to use, which is why I highly recommend it for anyone that's just getting into wood burning. It's compatible for type A electrical plugs, but purchasing a reliable power converter will allow you to use it in any country. It has a temperature control dial, and not all solid nib tools come with heat control, so I again do recommend finding one that does, because it will allow you to adjust to lower heat to create lighter color burn marks and max heat for black burn marks. This dial is also how you turn this particular tool off and on. The tool has a rubber grip on the handle that acts as a heat barrier, because this shaft can heat up and start to feel a little hot on the fingertips. This entire metal area heats up when the tool is on, and the nibs twist in and out here. Make sure you use pliers to change the nibs once the metal has cooled down from being turned off. And with this toolkit, you receive a bunch of different nibs that can be used to achieve different wood burning techniques and textures. You'll soon learn that when it comes to nibs for any type of tool, each nib does not have one purpose in burning. One nib can be versatile and achieve a few wood burning techniques. You can check out my other videos where I demonstrate with different nibs and tools to achieve beginner and advanced wood burning techniques. But for this video, I will show you a few examples of burning with nibs from the Creative Versa tool and what they can achieve. First up is the universal nib. It has one sharp edge, great for line work and textures. This nib is my favorite way to add dark black shading along with medium shading and light shading. Next is the flow nib, which has a rounded end like a ball. It's used to achieve dots, also known as stippling, and it can be used for a variety of line work like squiggly lines or straight lines. It's especially great for any designs that have circles or tight curves. Then this is the shading nib, which works awesome as a stamp to make a leaf pattern. And by isolating the top of the point, you can shade into small areas of your artwork. And this is the mini flow nib, which does the same as the flow nib, but on a smaller scale. You can even write tiny cursive letters with it. And that's the quick tour of the solid nib tool features and its corresponding nibs. Now let's jump into the pros and cons of a solid nib tool. The pros. These types of tools are inexpensive. The initial purchase to own one of these is inexpensive. Or if the tool or nib breaks, it's inexpensive to replace it. The tool is overall beginner friendly. It's really easy to use and to burn with, and you can achieve beginner and advanced pyrography artwork with it. The nibs are durable when heated. One reason why I still love my solid nib burner is that I don't have to be gentle with it. I can apply a lot of pressure down to burn and not worry about my nibs snapping or bending. Heat control is such a pro because the ability to adjust the heat allows you to create art with different levels of shading. And lastly, this solid nib tool is portable, which I find convenient for storing in my home or taking with me for, say, a weekend getaway. And the cons of a solid nib tool. The handle of the tool is thick. This can feel uncomfortable at first because your hand is like, what? And your brain is like, what? And you're used to writing with and controlling something much more slender like a pencil. But after a while, your hand and brain eventually get used to it and the thicker handle will feel natural. You also have to hold high up on the handle, and this goes hand in hand with the previous point. It's just unfamiliar for your hand and brain to draw and write with something holding so high up on the handle. It also takes a few minutes for the tool to heat up and cool down, and those minutes can add up in time if you're always changing your nibs in and out a lot during a wood burning session. Nibs can get stuck and break off in the tool if you twist the nibs out when they're still hot, which means you won't be able to get that stuck piece of nib out and you'll have to replace the entire tool. Speaking from experience. Solid nib tools don't reach extremely high temperatures like the wire nib counterparts, but if your wood is sanded smooth, you'll have no problem achieving a black burn mark. It just might take a little longer to achieve that solid black color. And last one, the cord may feel heavy because it has that temperature dial on it, so it's best to hold the cord with your opposite hand while you're burning. And that sums up the pros and cons of a solid nib tool. All right, let's switch it up and chat about wire nib tools. My examples I'm using are the Creative Woodburner tool by Walnut Hollow and the SSD10 dual system by Razortip. These specific brands are compatible with Type A plugs again, but if you order directly through Razortip, they can change the plug on the tool to be compatible with your country's outlets. You'll notice straight away the grips are thinner than the solid nib tool, which make them more comfortable to hold. You can also hold down closer to the nib, which feels a lot more familiar, like holding a pen. There's still a heat barrier on the handle, like here you can see a rubber grip and a foam grip, and some wire nib tools have cork as the heat barrier because the shaft can still heat up pretty good and leave you with toasty fingers. And if you do find holding your wire nib tool gives you those toasty fingers, you can wear a leather glove for heat protection, or with Razortip you can add on this extra silicone layer of protection that they offer, but it increases the thickness of the handle. Wire nib tools are attached to a lightweight cord to a compact station where you can turn the tool off and on and adjust the heat. Wire nib tools can reach much higher temperatures than solid nib tools, which allows you to easily achieve black burn marks, and it speeds up your time wood burning. However, high temperatures can cause wire nibs to break and bend easily under pressure, so you'll have to learn each nib's max temperature and pressure thresholds through trial and error to avoid constantly breaking the nibs when wood burning, like I'm really good at doing, obviously. The temperature dials on these stations can be digital or analog and either display the temperatures in degrees or use a numerical system. I honestly don't know the exact temperatures in degrees for each setting on these tools, but I have become familiar with the heat thresholds my nibs will tolerate through this simple number system of 1 to 10. And yes, my numbers are rubbing off from cleaning my tool once in a while, but I have had this Razortip tool since 2018 and it's still going strong and it gets used almost daily. That really says a lot about this tool right here. Now, wire nib tools do have some variety amongst themselves. Some nibs are either fixed to the wood burning pen, called fixed tip pens. To change the nib requires clicking the entire pen in and out of the cord. Some nibs are interchangeable at the top of the pen. They can either be fixed to a base unit that clicks in and out of the top of the pen, or the nibs are screwed in and out of the top of the pen. An important factor in deciding which type of wire nib tool you want to purchase is to consider the replacement cost of the nibs. If the nib breaks on a fixed tip pen, you'll have to replace the entire pen unit in comparison to replacing just that small, inexpensive piece of wire that screws in. Even though I burn very heavy-handed, I would say the fixed tip pens are very durable and you get the most variety to choose different shapes and sizes of nibs, so that's always the route that I go. Now let's take a look at how wire nibs burn. First up are nibs shaped like blades. These can create fine lines and textures by burning and carving deeply into the wood. Next are nibs with a curve, so there are no sharp edges. These nibs are great for burning outlines, curves, dots, cursive writing. This nib has a ball called a ball stylus nib. You can easily stipple or burn tight curves like circles, and you can create textured shading. And then we have nibs for shading. These nibs have larger surface areas that lie flat onto the wood to achieve various depths of shading. Okay, segueing into the pros and cons of a wired nib tool. Starting with the pros. Wired nib tools have slender handles that are located closer to the nib, which makes it easier to control the tool, especially when you're burning those fine lines and small details. Wired nib tools offer the largest variety of nibs to help you execute precise wood burning styles and techniques to basically master any wood burning design. These tools reach much higher temperatures than the solid nib tool counterparts, which speed up the time wood burning, and you can easily burn that dark black shading that everyone wants to achieve. Next, the nibs heat up and cool down instantly, which makes them immediately available to switch them in and out efficiently for those time-sensitive wood burnings. And the cons. Wired nib tools are more expensive upon that initial purchase, and some variety of wired nibs can be expensive to replace, like the fixed tip pens. The temperature station may be large, heavy, or bulky, which could become an issue if you're always traveling with it or if you have a small space to store your tool. And the nibs are delicate, as you know, and they are susceptible to break easily without those mindful burning practices. But I got you. You can watch my other videos to learn proper techniques and care for those wired nibs, so we don't have that issue.
Now the big question, how do you choose the right tool for you? And honestly, it comes down to individual preference. There isn't one tool that rules them all, so to speak. Every wood burning artist has their favorite tool, their favorite nibs that they like, because everyone burns a little different. Everyone has a different wood they prefer to burn on, which means you need different techniques if the wood's a lot denser versus softwood. So when you're choosing a tool, it's going to depend on the style and type of art that you want to achieve. It's going to depend on your preferred methods and techniques of burning. It's going to depend on what tools are actually available to you in your country, and it's going to depend on your budget. These are all super important to consider when you're choosing the right tool for you. And a lot of the time too, you don't know the right tool for you until you try it. You really have to just dive right in, pick a tool. Highly recommend starting with that solid nib burner if it's your first time, and play around with the tool. See if that tool works for you, and if it doesn't, after a while, go ahead and try a different tool. But I guarantee you that if your tool has a piece of metal that heats up at the end, and you've watched my other videos on how to learn fundamental wood burning techniques, I am confident that you will be able to make a really cool piece of wood burning art. Feel free to share in the comments your experience with different wood burning tools. I would love to hear about them. And thank you so much for watching.